They came to the mountains for peace, but the mountains had other plans.
One rescue turned into many, and the mountain was just getting started. He had seconds to choose, save the child or face the fire alone. The danger was over, but the lesson had just begun. Sometimes saving others is how you find your way back home. The mountains of Colorado stretched endlessly, tall and quiet, like ancient guardians watching every step taken on their land. Dense pine forests wrapped around narrow roads, and clouds drifted so low they felt close enough to touch. This was not a place for noise or rush. It demanded respect. Ethan Walker drove slowly, one hand on the steering wheel, the other resting near the open window. Beside him sat Max, a golden retriever with alert eyes and a calm but powerful presence. Max wasn't just a dog, he was Ethan's shadow, his family, and in many ways his anchor to life after everything he had lost. Ethan had come here for silence. After leaving his job as a search and rescue volunteer in California, the noise of cities and people had become unbearable. The mountains were supposed to help him breathe again. As they entered a popular scenic area, Ethan noticed something he hadn't expected. Families everywhere. Campers setting up tents, children laughing near picnic tables, tourists taking photos dangerously close to steep edges. This wasn't isolation. This was a busy holiday weekend. Max lifted his head suddenly, ears stiff. He stared toward the forest line. "You sense something, boy?" Ethan murmured. Max let out a low whine. Ethan ignored the uneasy feeling and parked near a trailhead. As they stepped out, cold wind brushed past them, carrying the smell of pine and something else, fear. Nearby, a family argued loudly. A father searched his pockets in panic. A mother hugged her crying daughter. "Our son was right here," the man said to anyone who would listen. "Just 1 second, and he ran toward the trees." Park rangers hadn't arrived yet. People stood around, confused, unsure what to do. Max pulled on the leash. Ethan's instincts, ones he'd thought he'd buried, came alive. He knelt, placing his forehead against Max's. "Find him," he whispered, unclipping the leash. Max ran. Without thinking, Ethan followed him into the trees. Branches snapped beneath his boots as the forest swallowed them whole. The mountain suddenly felt alive, watching, testing. They found the boy sitting near a rocky slope, frozen in fear, ankle twisted. Before Ethan could speak, the ground beneath them shifted. A low rumble echoed. Rocks began to fall. Ethan grabbed the child as Max barked wildly, warning him, but it was already too late. The mountain had decided to move. And in that moment, Ethan realized this trip was never meant to be peaceful. It was a test. As rocks crashed down and a forest shook, Ethan had only seconds to choose, save himself or risk everything once again. But the biggest danger was still hidden, deep in the mountains. The sound of falling rocks roared through the forest like thunder. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs as he pulled the boy close, shielding him with his own body. Max stood ahead, barking sharply, his instincts screaming danger. "Hold on," Ethan shouted as he dove behind a thick fallen log. Stones crashed where they had been standing seconds earlier. Dust filled the air, burning Ethan's lungs. The boy cried, clutching Ethan's jacket, his small hands shaking uncontrollably. "It's okay," Ethan said, forcing calm into his voice. "I've got you. Max is here. You're safe." But the mountain didn't care about reassurance. When the noise finally faded, an eerie silence followed. Too quiet. Ethan slowly lifted his head. The path they'd come from was gone, blocked by rocks and broken trees. They were trapped. Max sniffed the air, pacing in tight circles. His tail was low now, body tense. Ethan checked the boy's ankle. Swollen, he wouldn't be walking far. And with no cell signal, no clear trail, and daylight slipping away, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years, fear mixed with responsibility. This was why he had left search and rescue, the pressure, the moments where lives depended on his decisions. "Dad?" the boy whispered. "Is my dad coming?" Ethan swallowed hard. "He will. We just need to stay calm." But deep down, Ethan knew rescue wouldn't come quickly, not in this terrain. Suddenly, Max froze. From deeper in the forest came a faint sound, crying, not the boy's, an adult woman's voice. Ethan's chest tightened. Another family, another problem. Against his better judgment, he followed Max toward the sound. What they found made his blood run cold. A young couple near a ravine, their SUV partially slid off the dirt road, hanging dangerously. Inside the car, a woman sobbed, holding a baby. "The brakes failed," the man said desperately. "If we move, it'll fall." Ethan looked at the unstable ground, then at the injured boy beside him. One rescue had turned into many. Max barked once, sharp and urgent. Ethan understood. He used his jacket to splint the boy's ankle and secured him near a tree. "Max will stay with you," he said gently. "Don't move. He won't let anything happen to you." Max sat beside the boy, eyes locked on Ethan. Ethan approached the car slowly, instructing the man how to shift weight, how to stay still. He anchored a rope to a thick pine, muscles burning as he pulled, inch by inch, stabilizing the vehicle just enough for the woman and baby to crawl out. When they were safe, the man broke down, crying, "You saved us!" Ethan didn't answer, because the mountain wasn't done yet. A sudden gust of wind carried smoke, fire. Somewhere above them, a wildfire had started. As smoke crept through the trees and flames approached fast, Ethan realized saving people was no longer a choice. It was a race against time. But the mountain had one final twist waiting. The smell of smoke grew stronger with every second. Ash drifted through the air like falling snow, settling on Ethan's shoulders. The wind shifted, pushing the fire downhill, straight toward them. "Fire's moving fast," Ethan said, scanning the terrain. His mind worked like it used to, calculating distance, slope, escape routes. "We need to get everyone out now." "But the trail is blocked," the man said, panic rising again. "We can't go back." Ethan looked uphill. A narrow ridge cut through the forest, steep but clear of heavy trees. Dangerous, but possible. Max suddenly barked and ran back toward the injured boy. Ethan's stomach dropped. He sprinted after him and froze. The boy was gone. The rope securing him lay loose, chewed through, not by teeth, but burned. Embers had landed nearby. In fear and pain, the boy must have tried to move. "Max, track!" Ethan shouted. Max sniffed the ground and bolted toward a rocky slope where smoke was thickest. Ethan followed, heart pounding, memories flooded back, calls that went wrong, people he couldn't save. This was exactly why he had run away from this life. They found the boy near the edge of a ravine, flames crawling closer behind him. His face was streaked with tears. "I was scared. I thought you left me." Ethan dropped to his knees. "I would never leave you." But then the unthinkable happened. A burning tree cracked and collapsed, blocking their only path back. Ethan looked at Max. Max looked back, calm, focused. Ethan made a decision no rescuer ever wants to make. He tied the rope around the boy and handed the other end to Max. "Take him up," Ethan said, voice shaking. "You know the way." Max hesitated. "Go," Ethan commanded. Max grabbed the rope and pulled, guiding the boy up the ridge, step by painful step. Ethan stayed behind, using his jacket to beat back flames, coughing as smoke filled his lungs. Heat wrapped around him. The fire was winning. Just when his strength began to fade, a loud bark echoed above. Then another. A rescue helicopter's blades cut through the smoke. Park rangers descended, pulling Ethan out just in time. As he lay on the ground, gasping for air, Max rushed to him, whining, licking his face. The boy hugged Max tightly. "He saved me!" Ethan closed his eyes, tears mixing with ash. He hadn't lost his purpose. He had been running from it. As the fire died down and helicopters filled the sky, Ethan believed the worst was over. But the mountain still held one last emotional truth, one that would change every life involved forever.
Morning light slowly poured over the mountains, soft and golden, as if the land itself was apologizing for the chaos of the night before. Smoke still lingered in the distance, but the fire had been contained. Helicopters were gone, sirens were silent. Ethan sat on a wooden bench near the ranger station, a blanket around his shoulders. Max lay at his feet, exhausted but peaceful, tail thumping lightly whenever Ethan moved. Families stood nearby, some hugging, some crying, some simply staring at the mountains with new respect. The injured boy and his parents approached Ethan. The father extended his hand, eyes full of gratitude. "You saved our son. We don't even know how to thank you." Ethan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." The boy stepped forward and hugged Max tightly. "He's a hero." Max licked the boy's face, making everyone laugh through their tears. Nearby, the couple with the baby joined them. The woman held her child close. "If it wasn't for you and your dog, we wouldn't be here." Ethan felt something warm in his chest, not pride, but peace. Later, a ranger sat beside him. "We could use someone like you here," she said. "Seasonal rescue work, you and the dog." Ethan looked at Max. For the first time in years, the thought didn't feel heavy. "I'll think about it," he said. As families packed up and prepared to leave, Ethan noticed something unexpected. The mountains no longer felt threatening. They felt alive, honest. They had taken his fear and given him clarity in return. Before leaving, the boy ran back to Ethan and handed him a small folded paper, a drawing, stick figures of people, a big dog, and tall mountains. On top, written in messy letters, "Thank you for not leaving." Ethan swallowed hard. As he walked back to his truck, Max by his side, Ethan finally understood the message the mountain had been teaching all along. Helping others doesn't make you weak. It reminds you who you are. They drove away slowly, sunlight breaking through clouds, the road open and clear ahead. For the first time in a long time, Ethan smiled, not because the danger was over, but because he knew this wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Sometimes life takes you to dangerous places, not to break you, but to remind you that kindness, courage, and helping others can save more than just lives. It can save your soul.
3 months later, winter brushed the mountains with white. Snow rested on pine branches, and the air was sharp, clean, honest. Colorado looked different now, not wild and threatening, but calm and steady. Ethan's truck climbed the familiar mountain road once again. This time, he wasn't running away. Max sat in the passenger seat wearing a bright orange rescue vest, his head high, eyes alert. The vest still felt new, but Max wore it like it had always belonged to him. At the ranger station, familiar faces welcomed them. The same ranger who had spoken to Ethan months earlier smiled. "Glad you came back." "So am I," Ethan replied, and he meant it. Ethan had accepted the seasonal rescue position, not because he wanted to prove anything, but because he had finally understood something simple and powerful. Helping others had never been his burden, it was his gift. That afternoon, a call came in. A family had gotten lost on a snow-covered trail. Visibility was low. Panic was rising. Ethan didn't hesitate. He knelt in front of Max, adjusting his harness. "Ready, partner?" Max barked once. They found the family just before nightfall, cold, frightened, but alive. When the youngest girl saw Max, she smiled for the first time in hours and wrapped her arms around his neck. "You came," she whispered. Ethan felt that familiar warmth again. Later that night, as the family was reunited and warmth returned to cold hands, Ethan stepped outside. Snow fell gently. The mountains stood tall and quiet. He remembered who he had been when he first arrived here, broken, tired, afraid of caring too much. Now he understood. The world will always have dangerous places. People will always face fear, loss, and uncertainty. But there will also always be moments where one act of help, one brave decision, can change everything. Ethan looked down at Max, who sat proudly beside him. "You saved me, too," Ethan said softly. Max leaned against his leg. As they walked back inside, lights glowing warmly against the snow, the message of their journey felt clear and true. Helping others is never wasted. Kindness creates strength, and sometimes when you save someone else, you find your way home. The mountains watched silently, this time with approval.